Okay, I know right away people are gonna be like, "Oh my god, Nick, you're usually so dressed and themed for your videos. Where's your Spider-Man themed outfit? Where's your mask? You wore a mask the last time that you had a Spider-Man video." Okay, yeah, well, look, oh shit. Look at this right here. You know this is that real, authentic shit I got on. It's even a little battle damage, so you know I'm real with it. I rep this Spider-Man shit till I die. We got a new MCU Spider-Man movie out, so I think we have enough time to talk about it for a little bit. I'll always take time out of my busy schedule to talk about Spider-Man. And even though I said I'd rep this shit until I die, I'll pump the brakes a little bit. I do have standards. If there's a Spider-Man thing that is mid, I'll happily call it mid. I will say though, I liked at the time and still to this day, still like the Spider-Man Tom Holland movies. I don't think they're perfect, far from it actually, but I also think that they're far from the worst thing that has happened to Spider-Man within the past even like 20 years. I simply think that those movies are good and enjoyable. And I know that I'm gonna get jumped for saying that, but that's just how I feel. That being said, as much as I'm willing to defend the MCU Spider-Man movies, Brand New Day may have just changed the game, because it's not even really close anymore. I think that this movie is amazing. Spectacular even at points. Even after a first watch fresh out of the theaters, there's really no denying that Brand New Day is superior to the past MCU Spider-Man movies. It's the most heartfelt live-action Spider-Man movie, honestly, since Spider-Man 2 in my opinion. Although, I would say that Brand New Day is probably a little bit closer to Spider-Man 1 than Spider-Man 2 and even the Spider-Verse movies. I mean, honestly, the Spider-Verse movies that are most likely just gonna be completely untouchable. But that does not change the fact that I think that this movie is great and is on the upper tier of Spider-Man movies, for sure. Tom Holland in this movie is great, and he's always been great as Spider-Man despite what other people may say. I think that this movie really solidifies that he is Spider-Man. This is the movie where he finally gets to really flex his acting chops as Spider-Man, because this is really the first MCU Spider-Man movie that makes Peter depressed. Yay! We love a depressed Peter Parker! The movie really focuses on Peter post No Way Home and his isolation from finding real connections and forming relationships with people and repressing his true feelings and expressing himself. I also really appreciate that the changes and evolution that Peter goes through with his powers and his personalities are all an allegory for puberty or stress from overwork. It's an allegory that can resonate with really anyone and is yet another reason why Spider-Man is so beloved universally across all ages and generations. I also really love how Tom Holland is in the Spider-Man suit for like 90% of the movie, compared to the first MCU Spider-Man trilogy where it felt like CGI 90% of the time, and it just felt like weightless and intangible. It's very refreshing to see him in the suit for most of the movie, and I think it goes a long way in making the character feel real and making the interactions that he has with other characters feel so much more personal. It makes Spider-Man feel like an actual person and not just like a copy and pasted PNG standing next to Zendaya. Speaking of, her and the CEO of Sex are both back in the movie and they're really good too. Zendaya and Tom have great chemistry, which is a surprise to absolutely no one. Seeing Peter struggle to figure out if he wants to reforge those connections versus balancing out his Spider-Man life and making sure that he's keeping his friends and loved ones safe is just the right amount of Spider-Man angst that we've been missing from these movies. I think that the movie looks really good too. The action is a lot of fun. It takes a lot of inspiration from the Insomniac games. There were many times where Triangle Circle were popping up over those bad guys. The cinematography, color grading, and effects all look good as well. But deadass B, I love how much of a presence New York City has in this movie. I'm not sure how much of the movie was actually shot in New York, but at the very least, they were filming on real sets. And it gives the setting of New York so much depth. Seeing Spider-Man on wires swinging around the skyscrapers, interacting with locals, going into bodegas, all kinds of shit, help make the movie and the setting of New York feel alive. I don't really want to go into spoilers in this video, and I mean, I guess this isn't really a spoiler, but the end credits of the movie is just B-roll of New York, and It's something as small as that makes such a difference and goes a really long way. It feels so long since New York has felt like a character in any Marvel movie, let alone a Spider-Man movie. I'm just really glad that we have a Spider-Man movie that takes place entirely in New York, and instead of like him on vacation, him in like space or London. All love to my guy Brad, but Spider-Man is New York. And I really appreciate how this movie went out of its way to make sure that this was a love letter to New York. Destin Daniel Cretton has brought out the best in this Spider-Man. He understood the assignment. He gave Spider-Man movies the sauce again. This may come as a surprise to a lot of people, but I also think that this movie does a great job at balancing the other MCU characters that appear in this movie. When a superhero movie comes out and there's announcements that this hero's gonna be in the movie and then that hero's gonna be in the movie, understandably so, people begin to roll their eyes. Because most of the time when those heroes or characters get added to the movie, they're not really meant to play the biggest factor into a story. They're more just meant to be like, oh my god, yay, for people and nerds like me. When done correctly, like in this movie, it helps make the universe feel a lot more lived in. Punisher in particular brings such a different energy and a fun dynamic for Peter to bounce off of. He helps make the movie feel even more grounded since, you know, he's the Punisher. He's just a guy with fucking guns. He also doesn't feel out of place. He's still the edgelord that he is in the Daredevil movie, but he also manages to fit into this wholesome sector of the MCU. And even if the Hulk / Bruce Banner doesn't get as much screen time as a Punisher, his fight scene with Peter is fucking awesome. It's been long overdue since we've had an unleashed Hulk, and I think that there was an appropriate amount of Hulk in this movie. I really appreciate the practice of self-control and not indulging in these characters for too long in this movie. Because at the end of the day, this is still a Spider-Man movie, and I really appreciate how both the Punisher and the Hulk are representations of Peter's struggles in the movie too. And we see how he's dealing with that isolation by really diving into his life as Spider-Man, not allowing Peter to have a moment to think or to process his real feelings, at least in a healthy way. And each important side characters, particularly the heroes in the movie, are symbolic of the extremes that Peter is going through. Both the Hulk and the Punisher representing the extreme cases of what happens when you isolate and repress yourself for so long. Even Black Widow is a good representation for Peter in that sense, who somebody in her past movie figured out how to not be alone. Sadie Sink also is a welcome addition and is a character who Peter sees a lot in himself. On paper, a movie with Spider-Man, Hulk, Punisher, Black Widow, Nacho, teases of and Mr. Milchick should feel like an over-bloated mess, but somehow to me, it isn't. Unlike other Spider-Man movies, the movie manages to balance out the cast super well, and I love how much each of the characters contribute to Spider-Man and the themes in the movie. While I do appreciate the themes and lessons of loneliness and repression, I do think that the emotional payout by the end doesn't necessarily fall flat, but it just could have hit a little harder, in my opinion. Having Peter confront that directly again was really cool, and I'll admit, I got a little misty-eyed, yeah, but I think there could have been some opportunities to help make those moments again hit just a little harder. And maybe it's because sometimes the movie takes a little too much time to remind people what happened in the previous MCU Spider-Man movies. And I understand that this may be necessary for people who may not remember those movies or maybe haven't even watched those Spider-Man movies. But even if that were the case, I think it was executed in a much more distracting way instead of it providing more context for people who just don't know or don't keep up. Fuck it, I guess I'll talk about spoilers, why not? You can skip to here if you want to see the score and see my final little blurb or whatever. But Sadie Sink is Jean Grey. I mean, like, I feel like that's not even a surprise to people. Natural Redhead gets casted in a superhero movie. I wonder if she could have possibly played either Jean Grey or Guy Gardner. I also think that Jean Grey was in the movie for an appropriate amount, and I actually really appreciate that she was basically the main villain of the movie. Honestly, this interpretation of Jean Grey is already a lot more interesting than the previous interpretations of Jean Grey that we've gotten. The movie does a good job of keeping this as a Spider-Man movie instead of this being basically just like an X-Men origin story. Also, Peter is basically the mutant Oppenheimer. He doesn't even realize it now. Peter basically invented the thing that'll help humanity oppress mutants, presumably in the upcoming X-Men movies, bro is gonna have to be a crazy ally for the rest of his Spider-Man career. I've also seen people interpret the, like, mood swings and the changes in Peter's personality and powers less as, like, a man-spider thing and more as, like, a symbiote tease, and I don't know, the jury's still out on that in my opinion, but I'm at least glad that it's not man-spider, because that's just a bunch of bullshit. I mean, yeah, I really like this movie a lot. Even with the issues that I may have, this movie does a great job at instilling some life, heart, and soul into the Spider-Man movies again. At least the live-action Spider-Man movies. And I mean, I always thought that Tom Holland was a great Spider-Man, and that those movies had heart in them too, but I really appreciate that this movie just brings it back down to earth, brings it back down to its basics, or about as basic as it can get for the MCU Spider-Man. It tells a well-done, grounded, Spider-Man-focused story that not only helped bring the character back to its basics, but is also definitively the best Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. And I'm really excited to see how much more Destin Daniel Cretton could possibly elevate things for the Spider-Man character, and what else he could just have cooking up for this. The whiplash that I'm gonna get going from the sincerity and earnestness of this movie, Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, to fucking Doomsday, it might just give me CTE, bro. But oh well, guess there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm feeling a 9 for Spider-Man Brand New Day. Thank you guys for watching. As always, make sure you leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you want to keep up with more videos, and yeah, leave a comment, let me know what you thought of the video, let me know what you think about Spider-Man and the movie, of course, and thank you guys for watching as always.